Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second session of Cardiology Grand Rounds, and I'm Greg Flaker. It's a pleasure to introduce Dr. Anam Chakalingam to be our second presenter in a very interesting topic that he's been working on. By way of introduction, Dr. Chakalingam received his MBBS and his cardiovascular fellowship from Madras Medical Center and Research Institute in Chennai. He had additional training in the Western Pennsylvania Hospital in Pittsburgh, was in private practice in West Virginia for a while, came here in 2006. I'm pleased to report to you that today I'm introducing Professor Anam Chakalingam. He's been promoted to professor, and I must say his track record of grant support, and I've counted 66 peer-reviewed publications, is something that's very impressive. He has become a national authority and lectures internationally on Takotsubo. Recently, he's developed more of an interest in wellness and how we can improve our health and our health of the patients. And I think that's what he's going to talk to us about today is cardiac wellness. And I think he'll explain the rest of his title. It's a pleasure to welcome Dr. Chakalingam to Cardiology Grand Rounds.
Thanks so much, Dr. Flaker, for the kind introduction. We'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to our Zoom Cardiology Grand Rounds. I'm going to try and make sure you see my slides. Do you see it as full screen?
Actually, go back. There we go. Perfect.
Full screen slides. Excellent.
Yes.
So today's discussion is on SMILE, how that works to help us hold off aging, and then how, as cardiologists, we can truly participate in primordial level of cardiovascular disease prevention. My disclosure is Hilife Journey, which is a non-profit mobile health tool that is aimed at directly working towards self-resilience and improving cardiovascular wellness. So I went back last 15 years to see what grand rounds I've given. So every time there is an opportunity to give grand rounds, I'm asked, what are you going to talk about? So I think this is a snapshot of what has been working primarily in my thought process. In 2006, I talked about plaque rupture. Then when I talked about stress diastology, I was very fascinated about how cardiac stiffness is a correlate of not only aging, but unhealthy lifestyle. And by changing that at the right time point, we might be able to actually arrest or even reverse cardiac stiffness. So we've been thinking about this for over 10 years now. And then I talked about rehabilitation in 2011 when I started working on home-based arm exercise and cardiac rehab opportunities, which are now becoming so vital in this COVID world. In 2013, it was the role of exercise. And in 2015, we started discussing holistic heart health ideas. So by 2015, we already had our Heartful Living clinics on Fridays for patients, their families, and hospital staff and administration to engage with and benefit from 8-week sessions that would cycle several times through the year since 2015. Now, in 2019, we talked a little bit about how we can really use exercise as a tool not only to restore cardiovascular health, but also gain much valuable confidence for the individual patient to move forward in their life. So by 2016, we were already spending over $500 billion. And in the next 15 years, this is expected to exceed $1 trillion. Just the cost of cardiovascular disease care in the United States alone. which is already accounting for 1 in 3 deaths. We have to realize even today, 90% of this can be attributed to lifestyle, which means with simple exercise, diet, smoking cessation, risk factor control, we might be able to get control of 9 out of 10 heart attacks. So we have to realize that some of our patients are older, but many are of various age ranges. And there are families that are helping them cope with heart disease. Also, their age and life circumstance matters. We do know that simple measures that we routinely incorporate in heart disease, like aspirin, ACE inhibitors, beta blockers, statins, individually have about 20 to 30% risk reduction, with smoking cessation being a vital role. When we combine all these, we can directly reduce 2/3 or even 3/4 of heart disease. I just wanted to bring to your attention how a poly pill may save quality of life years in primary prevention. The cost saving is about $20,000, because otherwise the cost of 1 year worth of care is close to $90,000. They're able to bring it down to $70,000. And then if we see the cost of statin therapy, it's at about $10,000 to save one life year in secondary prevention after a coronary event. But the same statistic, if we are trying to use statin in primary prevention, the cost is near $200,000. So it becomes challenging unless we have higher 10-year event risk scores that warrant statin therapy. Empirically using statins may not be cost effective. So this is looking at some of the typical preventive tools that we think about in traditional cardiovascular care. Now, if we shift gears and move towards primordial prevention, this is not something cardiologists do, but at societal level, if we can go to the schools and encourage physical activity, better nutrition, educate about smoking cessation, then for every dollar we spend in there, we are able to gain more than $5 worth of benefit down the road. This is enormous. Now, if we just increase the number of biking and walking trails in a community, for every dollar spent there, we can get $3 worth of healthcare benefit down the road. So this is several hundred or thousand-fold more benefit for the dollar spent if we go 1 or 2 steps earlier in prevention using lifestyle changes. So the invitation today is for all of us to think outside the box. Is our box cardiology? Is our box prevention? I was Googling what we are talking about today, and this is a book I haven't read yet, but I just thought I should share this interesting title with you. How to Reset Your Age. Goddesses Never Age. Then there is another book where we can learn that you are what your grandparents ate. So there is so much, uh, I would say, public interest and understanding that is growing in how epigenetics modulates lifestyle. And through that, even if we have high family risk of heart disease, we may be able to reduce our individual risk over years. So this is a beautiful summary where if we look at how genes are being modulated by epigenetic maladaptation because of sedentary habits, increased sugar added foods, radiation, significant mental stress, smoking, and how these things can be modulated positively using physical activity, whole foods, better sleep hygiene, and true relationships, and using holistic tools, how we can reduce our risk for heart disease and other problems. So if The person in the left end is our cardiac patient who is in his, say, 70s or 80s. His wife, his children, his grandchildren may also be, I would say, people we could focus our attention on in this day and age to reduce long-term cardiovascular event risk. So we talk about family history. Here I've deliberately left out the word history. So let's talk about family with premature cardiovascular disease. Then we'll talk a little bit about the role of SMILE, ease and flow, and aging and primordial cardiovascular disease prevention, and what this SMILE program that we are starting now is all about. So if we look at family with premature cardiovascular disease, I just ran this Q-risk online risk calculation for myself, given my age and Indian origin, my lipid numbers. My risk of heart disease is about 2.6%. If I were to add one more factor of a family history, my risk nearly doubles. That's what I want you to recognize. All the risk scores don't take family history into account, but we in cardiology recognize the importance of family history, and some of the risk scores like Q-risk do take it into account. So when we say family history of premature cardiovascular disease, we are talking about men at the age below 55 and women below 65 years, which really imparts a significant risk for families to have heart disease. So if there is family history, what about siblings? They have a 40% increase, and offspring have a 60 to 75% increased risk of heart disease. What about identical twins? The risk is not 40 or 70%, the risk is 10 times higher for identical siblings if there is family history before 75. So to summarize, if one parent had a MI, the risk is 67% increase. If one parent had it before the age of 50, the risk is 2.5 times. If both parents had MI, the risk is 3 times higher. And if that is both parents having MI before the age of 50, there is a 6-fold increase in the risk of heart disease. So that's what the family history is such a crucial impact. Next, if we look at this thing that I've been using now for close to 10 years, I've been telling my patients, find reasons to smile 20 times every hour. Doc, let me retire. I have to do my work till I'm another 4 more years, and then I will start smiling and relaxing the way you want me to. But the reality is, when we are working, when we are learning, when we are living our active life, that is when our heart disease risk is also significant. And atherosclerosis is progressing throughout our life. So if we can smile through our day, waking day, every day, several times, then our risk is significantly mitigated. So this is not from cardiology research, but this is relevant to us. If we can smile instead of just holding the pen in a neutral position versus a smiling position horizontally, the mood changes, our cardiovascular response changes. So this is a study from Japan where they're looking at people who never smile versus smile few times or smile every day. So when you smile every day, the cumulative incidence of cardiovascular disease over the period of 1 to 5 years goes down significantly. So smiling has cardiovascular therapeutic benefit. So there are numerous reasons to smile, but what I want to emphasize here is it can be voluntary. We do not even need a reason to smile. It can be conscious and a powerful choice. It elevates our mood and equally importantly, the mood of people around us. It is linked to good health and longevity. So the deliberate act of smiling, just the facial gesture itself is valuable, but if we can go further at a deeper level and find more reasons to smile, it is even better. So on average, it is estimated that adults smile 1 to 2 times every hour. And people who are happy, they do twice as much. 3 times they are able to smile every hour. However, if you look at children, they are already naturally smiling 30 times every hour. So I guess when I'm asking my cardiac patients to smile 20, I'm asking them to move towards childhood innocence. if not completely, at least deliberately, if they can make that gesture. So this is what that research comes from. And children, when they are smiling that many times, it also increases blood pressure control, physical endurance. So this may be used as a tool to improve exercise performance and to cope with the stress and pain. And now in this COVID world, to help us build our immunity towards various infections, including COVID, simple gesture of smiling and trying to deliberately relax may be valuable. So that is what this smiling 20 times an hour is all about. So to do this, despite COVID challenges, we took a road trip as a family. We've been planning this for several years, but this year, last month, we got this chance to drive 10, 12 hours to Colorado in the Rockies. And I went to see the sunrise in a beautiful alpine lake at about 9,000 feet. It was amazing sunrise. And I enjoy photography, and I didn't have to take a camera for these beautiful pictures, thanks to the iPhone that happens to be with us anyway. This is Garden of the Gods near Colorado Springs. My wife and children are here in this sunrise picture. I don't know how many of you are able to guess what breed this is. This is not even a dog. I was so fortunate to get a picture with a timber wolf, and this has strayed away from its pride when it was a cub. So it was retrieved, and it still doesn't follow any commands. At least it wouldn't be ferocious or anything. So it was a good opportunity for me to just pose with that. On the last day when we were in the Rockies, we chanced upon this beautiful sunset on another alpine lake. But what we are seeing is not just the clouds. Unfortunately, it's a forest fire that closed down the Rocky Mountain National Park the next day. This was another beautiful sunrise. So why I'm showing all these pictures is, one, I thoroughly enjoyed the few days that despite this COVID world, I was able to be out there, the natural world, and we were able to get more than 16 feet distance from people just being out there for a whole week. And more than anything else, we have to find so many reasons through our logical mind to be grateful. That is the real way to find the 20 smiles an hour. Why we are grateful, how we are grateful, it's up to us. But as soon as we find that gratitude, our heart health is protected. It can be for events that happen today. It can be for people and circumstances. Like I get to work with an amazing group of colleagues here at Mizzou for over a decade and help so many people in our community. That's what I'm grateful for. And then while talking about living life beyond artificial intelligence at Hickman High School this year, 17, 18-year-old stood up and said in front of all his 200 classmates, I'm grateful for waking up in the morning. I'm grateful for food to eat every day. I'm grateful for the bed that I sleep on. So when an 18-year-old can stand up and talk like that and perceive life, we all can do that. Be grateful for existence itself. I've been asking my patients for the last 10 years, what are you grateful for? In 2020, for the first time, so many of my patients look me in the eye, first time seeing me, and tell me, Doc, I'm grateful to be alive. So in some form or shape, despite all the challenges, COVID is giving us a reason to perceive life more holistically. So that was smiling and how to find the gratitude in our day-to-day life. Now, what is exercise, awareness, and smile experience, flow, and how it connects with high life, our program. So this we are presenting this month at American Cardiovascular and Pulmonary Rehab National Conference. And some of this I've already discussed, I think, in the last grand round, so I'm going to rush through some of these slides. So flow is well described in athletes and may enhance exercise compliance in cardiac patients. So that's our premise for the last 5 years. Heartful Living is our unique cardiac wellness program that prospectively targets flow, and much of this detail is available on our website. To summarize, uh, say for a tennis player, depending on our ability and the difficulty, this is the opponent on the other side of the court, how skilled they are. If I was to play with somebody who's never been on a tennis court, I'll be bored. If I was to play with a professional player like Roger Federer, I'll be very anxious to not look like a fool on the tennis court. But if I was to play with Dr. Senthil, who's our cardiology colleague for the last several years, I've been able to match my skill with his, and we have a chance to enter flow. Flow means where we are optimally engaged and intrinsically enjoyable and a positive state of mind. So cardiac patients don't have to learn to play tennis when they are 74 years old with one leg amputated and two strokes, but they are able to still experience flow in several other aspects of their life. But for this experience, we use Borg Dyspnea Index, and we encourage exercise with the aerobic interval training, resistance training, participation in sports, and all this despite being cardiac patients with stenting and bypass surgery. And we encourage patients to monitor their own perceived level of dyspnea in a simple 0 to 10 Borg scale. And the biggest challenge initially is how to smile through the exercise. So once they learn to smile and exercise, they can smile through most of the other stresses that watching news or dealing with people in their lives or dealing with their health issues, whatever their challenges are, they are able to perceive it at a more I would say, holistic and grateful perspective. So this is what this whole ease experience is. And we have our own scale where we grade 1 to 5, the flow experience, performance beyond that particular expectation, uh, working effortlessly, having real fun, and losing that sense of I and logical thinking, and time sense is lost. So in this 5 aspects, if they grade themselves after the experience, they're able to see whether they had a chance to experience a little bit more in the flow experience. So many of our patients to start with look at exercise as a job, one more thing to do, 30 minutes of something to get done to please the Fitbit. People who do this are predominantly sedentary to start with and experimenting with exercise and sports. But once they learn our Heartful Living process, they experience fun with exercise. And they now recognize that exercise can be uplifting and enjoyable. But once they start experiencing 1 or 2 times a month higher levels of flow, then exercise becomes the centerpiece of their life experience itself. So this is why we see so many enthusiasts who go to extreme levels to experience that mind-body connection through exercise. And this is what we really encourage our patients to experiment with. So this is a 50-year-old engineer with an anterior MI, and another patient is a 68-year-old MU professor who was sedentary, who ended up with inferior MI. The engineer had VFib arrest, luckily in the emergency room, stented. He underwent cardiac rehab and participated in our Heartful Living program remotely because he's based in Dubai. And then 3 months later, his heart function improved. And this is what would happen on a steady level treadmill pace of 5 kilometers. When he is exercising on a beta blocker, his heart rate would gradually increase to about 125 beats a minute. And because his dyspnea index is going all the way up to 10, he would stop at about 20, 30 minutes on 6 out of 7 days of the week. But on one day in a week, when he's on the same treadmill, he describes the heart rate is continuing. He is able to go well beyond his routine capacity, and the dyspnea actually is dropped off. He is now suddenly, after experiencing nearly the peak level of exertion, feeling the dyspnea dropping off, and he is not taking a break from the treadmill. The treadmill is still going at the same pace. So this is that flow experience that happens in 1 out of 6 episodes for him. This next patient is this professor at MU with a heart attack and stent. And this the medal he is now sharing with us so that other participants in our Heartful Living program will be inspired by his life journey. In 2018, 2 years ago, he had a MI and a inferior RCA stent. In 3 months, he participated in our Hilife and wanted to engage in more exercise. So he started participating in 5K runs, and that's where he got this medal. So this is a person who for much of his life has been sedentary. So walking in Walmart would typically make him short of breath. So now he's doing 5K. And in the next few months, he's engaging so much more. He's taking so much more ownership for this exercise. And he's now training at a Human Performance Institute with athletes to build muscle, to gain more confidence, to do more exercise. And now, towards the end of 2019, he started intermittent fasting. And then he sent me an email a few months afterwards saying he's lost several more inches after this process. And he's feeling like 25 years younger. So this is a profound change that the coronary event has brought about for him. So this one diagram is an illustration of how this flow experience is not just one instance on the treadmill, but it can be part of a continuum where we can continuously experience this. So sedentary older cardiac patients can safely exercise and gain confidence for a whole lifetime. Flow increases compliance with exercise prescriptions substantially and actually makes them do more than the 30 minutes that we require. And the EASE program inspires cardiac patients to engage in fun, fulfilling physical activities and now experiment with sports. Hilife targets self-inquiry. That is what core of Hilife is, and preventing cardiac disease through an active lifestyle. So this we have been doing now for 5 years, and these are the 8 sessions. And through the middle of this session, we had to cut it short because COVID came about and we stopped doing in-person sessions. But because of COVID, I think we've actually moved ahead much faster than we had actually planned. And we have this website now up and running for people to fill out all these questionnaires about not only their physical 10-year cardiovascular risk prediction. If it's young people below the age of 30, they can do a 30-year cardiovascular risk prediction on our website. And not only these hard risk factors, they can also measure their stress levels, mindfulness levels, um, so many other simple tools we have incorporated on our website. Ultimately, it takes only about 10 to 15 minutes initially to do the survey, and every 3 months we are able to offer it to them again so that they can track for themselves where they are in the self-inquiry journey towards a deeper self-understanding. So this is the June and July sessions which we did online. Instead of 20 people attending at the VA Patient Education Center, we had over 150 to 200 people attend, including our MU leadership, um, where all these sessions are recorded, and we are now able to share it at no cost because it's all available on YouTube. So all this is material that anybody anywhere can access to participate in these holistic programs. So to summarize what this Hilife is, we emphasize self-awareness, encourage people to recognize what their true life goals and motivations are, and understand how their mindset is and what their stress and anxiety levels are, how their physical limitations are, and encourage them to participate in different exercises, interval training, resistance training, and how to relax through the exercise itself. And we encourage celebrating food rather than reducing food intake, eating slower, holistic food, and how to incorporate fasting. And we also emphasize connecting meaningfully with people in their life towards finding highest quality of life possible. So self-inquiry is the science of higher consciousness that improves health through celebrating life itself. And here there is potential for lifespan, not only life, but also health span, where we can be healthy beyond the age of 100 years. So we incorporate cardiology, positive psychology, mindfulness, meditation, 5,000-year-old Siddha and yoga practices to bring together high life for our patients and their families. So emotional craving, you will notice in several of our patients, that leads to more junk food intake, and people are continuously hungry, and eating makes them more guilty. So this is a vicious cycle. I, I never had experienced it. So all my life, I've been a habitual eater. That my parents are both physicians. My dad is a cardiologist. He's joined us today. I saw him before we started, from India. And but for 45 years of my life, I've been eating by the clock, 8 a.m., 12 noon, and 7 p.m. And this is more out of convenience, so that I will have a disciplined life that will allow me to pursue my education and work as a doctor and everything else. But food is looked upon as a necessary use or waste of our time so that we can pursue higher things in our life. Food is not given that much importance for the first 45 years of my life. For now, the last 2 years, 3 years, what I'm experiencing is real physical hunger. This is very simple. We just cut down a little more on what we eat until we feel hungry. That's all it really is. But there are much more, I would say, holistic way of living. And this allows us to open our consciousness to much more healthy foods. And here, finally, eating is truly a gratifying, satisfying experience. And any healthy food makes this hunger go away. So in our High Life program, we encourage everybody to not eat for 14 hours every day. So if you finish dinner at 6 p.m., you can have breakfast at 8 a.m. In those 14 hours, only water, nothing else is needed. Once a week, we encourage people to go to 18, 20, 24, even 30 hours once a week. And doing it through gratitude. That is the core. Otherwise, it's hard to sustain this in any length of time. But once you connect this with gratitude and experience this hunger, it becomes more intuitive, natural. And I don't see how I will not do this through the rest of my life. And this exercise awareness and smile experience with any exercise, yoga, whatever our patients are able to do, I just encourage them to be aware in the Borg Disney Index and find reasons to smile. Self-talk for 1 or 2 minutes, whatever stress is in our mind, think aloud, and then 5 to 10 minutes of sitting silently. And this last thing, altruism, compassion experience, is finding some thing out of our daily routine, where we spend 1 to 5 minutes trying to make someone's life happier, better. And the biggest challenge in this AS experience is, ideally, the person receiving this act of kindness should not even know who we are, who is doing this act of kindness for them. That would be the most beneficial for us if we do this altruism compassion. So we've written a grant on this now. So aging, what we understand in the holistic sense, and how does it pertain to primordial prevention as a cardiologist. So this is the last thing we want to discuss today. And so aging is a time-dependent functional decline. It's an inexorable movement of life itself. Unfortunately, aging poses the greatest threat for several cardiovascular diseases, including atherosclerosis, coronary artery disease, hypertension, heart failure, atrial fibrillation, myocardial infarction, and cardiac hypertrophy, diastolic dysfunction. And this is basically the gamut of cardiac practice. So aging and cardiology are very closely interconnected. That's why in 2008, I was beginning my work here thinking, let's stop aging. I went to the VA, got a grant, and said, I'm going to recruit veterans who are between the age of 40 to 60 with a poor lifestyle, facing dyspnea, which is from the heart getting stiff prematurely, and we can reverse it. I didn't get to recruit more than 10 patients. The reason is we don't have healthy young veterans who are able to exercise. They already have too many comorbidities, and our program was not designed to give them that much exercise. So then we tailored, toned down, and we said, despite your comorbidities, we'll get you to exercise. This is how our home-based arm exercise rehab program, a pilot study, came about 2-3 years later. And here we are showing how we can safely exercise at patients' own home. Even if they have back pain and one leg amputated, they can still exercise at optimal levels to get full cardiac rehab benefits. So compared to traditional cardiac rehab, the home-based rehab program can be telephonically administered at much lesser cost and time constraint, and it's much more flexible. And after 1 to 2 years, sustenance is much more with active lifestyle with this program. Now, shifting gears, I want to bring to your attention this research that has been around now for over 50 years. What this slide is showing is various life forms, all the way starting from unicellular organisms to insects to mice to rats to dogs and monkeys, which share more than 90% genetic similarity with human beings. And what all these life forms are telling us is, in nature, whatever they are consuming, if we intervene in the lab and give them, or I should say, if we deprive them of what they naturally get by way of food, what happens to their survival? The surprising answer across the entire gamut of the animal kingdom is that lifespan increases by depriving food. So that is the one simple message I want you to take away from this grand rounds. And this picture only reinforces that. The monkey on the left side and the right side are both the exact same age. But if you can see here the side profile, this monkey looks its age, whereas this monkey looks 10 years younger and is more agile, more active. And for a monkey, it is easy to count its, what I would say, life experience, creativity, productivity, endurance, whatever, by the simple count of number of jumps it is making. And this monkey is jumping like a monkey that is 10 years younger. And the reason this monkey is this much better off is because it unwillingly took a 30% calorie restriction in the lab. And if you look at the number of monkeys in this study, the control monkey that got normal amount of food, see, the control monkey is not obese, it is normal BMI, eating normal monkey food. Whereas calorie restricted monkey is eating the same food but at 30% lesser quantity. The cancer risk comes down significantly. Cardiovascular risk, it goes down 70, 80%, 90%. And then if you look at metabolic syndrome, it actually disappears. So this is the message. By calorie restriction, aging itself, if you see here, is reduced significantly by calorie restriction. People say, okay, this is in monkeys. It cannot be extrapolated to human beings, right? If you look at inflammation, it plays a significant role not only in heart disease, cancer, dementia, aging. So I believe the simplest tool that is readily available in our lab is high sensitivity CRP. And if we can reduce that, we have a significant benefit in all these counts. Calorie restriction has shown that high sensitivity CRP drops from 14 to 8. And this is the benefit that we can get, which is comparable to what atorvastatin did in reversal. Now, there is a human study. It is called Calorie 1, and then Calorie 2 is a long-term blinded study in 25% calorie restriction for 2 years, where 10 kg weight reduction was achieved in healthy, young, normal BMI of 25 adults in their 30s. So what is happening to their weight, systolic blood pressure, cholesterol numbers, metabolic insulin resistance? See, all these parameters are already within normal limits for a 30, 35-year-old. But by restricting calorie 25%, the study clearly demonstrated, WashU was one of the centers that participated in the study. And what they are showing is, within normal range, all the parameters are still improving. So basically, a healthy 35-year-old with a BMI of 25, if he takes a voluntary 25% calorie restriction for a couple of years, his metabolism becomes that of a 20 or a 25-year-old. So this we already know is true in human beings. So our SMILE program, the SMILE that we already talked about, just smiling 20 times an hour, will allow us to participate in this hunger and gratefulness experience, smile through the exercise and the meditation, and experience more and more flow in our life. This will allow us to reach the weight goals that can be, even if we are a BMI of 25, we can move towards 22. For people from Asia, southern in Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, the BMI of 22 is the safest BMI, whereas for the rest of the world, BMI of 25 is acceptable. For cardiac and metabolic risk, basically for aging itself, we can get a significant risk reduction through this program. And once you feel 10 years, 20 years, 30 years younger, you don't need any other reason to keep smiling. So this can be the vicious cycle that we are aiming at in our cardiac patients. So I'm going to share a few patient experiences real fast. So this is a recurring theme in people who participate in our Heartful Living program. This is a 64-year-old with triple SL disease who was needing bypass surgery in 2019 because his LV function dropped with all the risk factors that we routinely see in our heart patients. And he had fasted once when he was in the military, when he was the age of 21. So he went back, and after participating in our program, he said, I'm going to do another 50-day fast. He did that. He lost a lot of weight, which included muscle, which is not what we are aiming at. But then he regained some. But the real reason I bring a story is his weight has stabilized on a vegan diet. He's turned vegan. He's not gone back to the bypass surgery. His EF from 45 has normalized. He has no angina at all. And he is doing very well now. This graph is 6 months old. So this is the patient. And this is that gratitude that we sit and talk about with our patients, and he experienced it in our hospital. And this hunger experience is beyond intermittent fasting because it is more a meditative program. It improves our sleep, our mood, creativity, resilience, our ability to perceive compassion, optimism, and confidence. And ketosis, which intermittent fasting offers once a week, we can do this nearly every day if we choose to through this experience. And we accept hunger as a sign of life. We accept it gratefully. And the suggestion is feel hunger before each meal. Through that, the intermittent fasting gains about 30% calorie restriction. Here, the calorie restriction can go to 50, 60, 70%. And this can be sustained over months, over years, safely, without supervision. I have patients who have gone to California to do a 5-day, 10-day water-only fast so that they are supervised. And these programs in Florida and California, they offer it. We don't have it in Missouri, where these are self-pay, and I don't think any insurance backs this. But here at their own home, cardiac patients are able to gain this much calorie restriction for several months together, years together. And the intermittent fasting, I believe, will help people live 100 years, whereas through this program, they can feel so much more alive today itself. So this hunger gratitude experience, I'm presenting at Academy of Integrative Health Medicine. This paper was accepted only today, so I thought I should share this with you. This is another patient who has all these risk factors. We don't have the time to even talk about it, but her weight has not come down. But I want you to hear what she has to say. What do you feel grateful about?
I wake up every morning.
Excellent. You started out saying that you're an optimistic person.
I've always been optimistic and always figured I had at least the glass half full.
Now, how do you look at your life?
That my glass is always full and overflowing.
What do you feel grateful about? So she's able to feel grateful despite her health issues. That's what I wanted to share with you. This is a 73-year-old who has lost enough weight to be the graph of a gastric bypass patient, but this patient just followed lifestyle. And the reality is, I asked him to fast 1 or 2 times a week, but he is continuing to fast 6 days of the week, having 1 meal a day, and continues to go to bed hungry 6 days of the week. And he has sustained this much weight reduction, and he wants to now finally look forward to several more years of health. When I first saw him last year, he had really given up on life itself. This is a 59-year-old, again, very similar story. She has again lost substantial weight, feeling years younger, off 8 out of 10 medicines for the heart and doing so much better. This is another patient, very similar story. And this is much longer time frame if you see from 2005. So 10 years she has continued to lose weight and continuing to celebrate life into her 80s. So this slide I've shown in a prior grand rounds. This is the real invitation. Both these patients, this is what we do for a living in cardiology. Look at echocardiograms, and then we look at the patient's age. Both these people are 60 years old. The chronological age is the number of years we have already lived, but the biological age gives us the true probability of survival looking into the future. So this heart, unfortunately, looks like a 70, 75-year-old heart based on the calcium that we see. And this heart will pass off for a 40-year-old heart. So that is the invitation for us to reduce our true biological cardiovascular age through a better lifestyle. So our life itself is divided into fetal life, infancy, adolescence, adulthood, and old age. And if we look at cardiologists, we do secondary prevention at the time of a coronary event, and primary prevention is usually done by primary care physicians for risk factor control, and primordial prevention, avoiding the risk factors, is done through health policy, government, schools, and systems, communities, whereas ICDs and advanced heart therapies are offered by electrophysiologists, heart failure therapists, and cardiothoracic surgeons. So this is how we factor in prevention, and this is where policy makes a huge difference in primordial prevention. So this is what is the gamut of primordial prevention, which is diet, exercise, and things like that. So this is what we are doing already. This is a meeting with all the principals of all the schools in Colombia. And this is the superintendent who invited me to this talk so that they can in turn take the message to their own schools. And this is what we have done, looking over 20 years, how depression in an adolescent who is 16 to 18 years of age, when he is depressed, 20 years down the road, his chance of being obese and having high blood pressure increases substantially. We were able to publish this work. And then looking at mindset, depending on the increased levels of pessimism, risk of cardiovascular disease substantially increases. So this is pessimism that is marked at the age of 16 on one survey that ends up being a risk factor 10 years, 20 years down the road. So now we have submitted a NIH grant on this A70 that we talked, the altruism compassion experience for 70 days. That's what it is. So using our Hilife website, we are saying we can encourage children to develop deeper mind-body connection and reduce long-term cardiovascular risk through emotional resilience development. And thanks to work with the psychologists at MU. So this SMILE program, finally, the last 2 minutes, we'll talk about it. What is the SMILE program? Obviously, we want everybody to smile 20 times an hour, but that takes a deeper, I would say, subconscious level of connection. For that, meditation is great, connecting with gratitude, loving what we do, connecting with our creativity, sports, flow. Fasting obviously is an extremely useful tool, connecting with the purpose, meaning in life, ikigai. All these are specific tools that we encourage our patients to seek. So instead of this is what SMILE is: self-inquiry based, multi-generational involvement in lifestyle enhancement. This is the most ambitious program that we are hoping to get underway here at MU over the next 2 years. What it is not only take care of our cardiac patients, look at their family closely, their friends and their siblings and their spouse for secondary prevention. Look at their children as primary prevention candidates. Look at their grandchildren for primordial prevention. Already, unfortunately, all the way up to their grandchildren are at risk because of poor eating habits and already obesity setting in adolescence. So our patients are a prime audience for cardiovascular prevention. While we engage with them, we can directly connect, enlist so many other people, at least 10 other contacts, track through our website. We might be able to, I would say, monitor the wellness initiatives that people are engaging themselves in, and so much more. This will increase screening and the preventive tools that we have here at MU, and this will overall lead to a much more holistic, better health that avoids true coronary events through better prevention methods. So we already know that fasting improves immunity, prevents diabetes, helps weight reduction, 70-80% cardiovascular risk reduction. This I learned recently. It increases cancer prevention by 70%. So this fasting for 24 hours once a week is all that it takes. So today, the invitation to you practicing cardiology is, can you relieve angina, avoid stents and revascularization procedures, heal atherosclerosis, reverse it, control blood pressure, diabetes, and cholesterol, cut back 90% of our prescription medications, stop aging, reverse aging, and truly make families healthier? Can we do this at no cost, in no time, and with no effort from the patient's perspective also, at their own home, without even coming to our hospital? And can they sustain it for a lifetime? So this hunger gratitude experience may be one of the key aspects through Hilife, where not only the fasting benefits, coping with stress and depression, anxiety, improved compliance with smoking cessation, and anything else people set their hearts at, and truly connecting with their work, with their home environment and family and friends. All these things get so much better when people engage in self-inquiry. So that is what our patients are showing us now. So this was what I gave a grand rounds 5 years ago as a promise, and now with my patients showing, yes, doc, this works. Only thing, it works 5 times better than you promised. That's what our patients are now telling us. So when we say think outside the box, we should think outside cardiology, think outside medicine, think outside thinking itself. So thinking may be the final box that we have to experience life outside of. So if we go beyond cardiology, engage in the psychological aspects, holistic wellness is definitely in our own realm. We can then engage meaningfully in policy, ethics, culture. And in the next 15 years, AI is going to greet us. So we'll be ready for it when super AI is at our doorstep. In 2006, we felt mind was so important. By 2010, we knew we could reverse diastolic dysfunction. By 2012, we had started home rehab. 2015, we had Heartful Living 8-week sessions for free at the VA, but includes all community patients here in Colombia. Now in 2020, we have so many cardiologists referring patients to our Heartful Living program. We have endocrinologists, bariatric surgeons, and nephrologists saying we want to engage because our patients are benefiting in these holistic programs. So the smile now involves not only our patients, but their children and grandchildren. Anybody above the age of 10, invite to directly participate by enrolling themselves in Hilife program. So by another 2 years, I'm hoping our leadership, which I've invited to participate in today's grand rounds, our administration and MU leadership, hopefully they will find the resources for us to build our cardiovascular center for wellness, so that in the next few years, self-inquiry based lifestyle program will become our vehicle to take cardiac prevention to the next level. And we can grow this nationally and internationally. I didn't get to spend much time on blue zones, but they are present all over the world, and they are still live primitive lifestyles, but they live to 100 years healthy and engaged in their community and in their families without having to deal with dementia, cancer, and heart disease like we do in the Western world. So our community locally will be a blue zone by 2030, and the whole world in the next 15 years can become that way by the time AI comes to take over our life. So I want to thank our collaborators who helped me over the last decade. And I've listed all their names here. In behavioral psychology, exercise physiology, basic research, collaborators, my dad and sister from India who've been helping me in this program over the last 10 years, machine learning program here that has helped us with our research, our VA, which has supported our Heartful Living program consistently for the last 5 years. And I want to thank all our collaborators who helped us with this Hilife journey. Thanks so much for the patient audience, and I'll open it up for questions and discussions. Thanks so much.
Anand, that was really good. There are some chat things that have come up while we're waiting for questions, and that has predictably to do with the fasting issue. You know, there was a concern about ketosis. Is it ketosis? Is that physiologically bad for you, perhaps? And concern about cardiac cachexia, malnutrition in certain patients, for instance, who have heart failure, and the fasting and that thing. Questions like that.
Yeah. The patients that you saw, many of them are diabetic, but most of them do not have insulin requiring diabetics is a big challenge. If you have type 1 diabetes, we don't recommend fasting. But if you have type 2 diabetes, which is 95% of the diabetes throughout the world, and if you are type 2 diabetic requiring insulin, it is still okay to engage in fasting. But the main thing I tell all my patients is smile so much that my subconscious recognizes that you are not starving. That's the difference between fasting and starving. Starving is a stressful situation where we are seeking food. Fasting is when the food is right next to you, you're only postponing the eating for a little longer. You're willing to take that hunger and live with it and continue to work through that hunger. But plenty of water, plenty of smiling, which means relaxing. Water avoids dehydration and ketosis. And with these two things, people can slowly recognize how much more they can engage. 14 hours fasting, everybody can and should do, including children above the age of 10 years can easily engage in 14 hours. Even type 1 diabetics can do 14 hours. But beyond that 24 hours, 36 hours, we have to be a little careful if you're insulin requiring diabetics. For the rest of the world, if you're heart patients, I feel this works so well to reduce the risk of revascularization. Heart failure is not a reason to avoid fasting. It actually helps heart patients. We have so many, I didn't bring those graphs, but we have even CKD patients. CKD, we look at it as a graph where CKD is a progressive disease. Even that has reversed with our program. So there is so much upscale benefit. That's why I invite more and more collaboration with psychiatrists, endocrinologists, nephrologists, so many fields, bariatric surgery. We want to engage in our bariatric program, which has been so successful over the last 20 years, how we can use this program to strengthen our community's health. Maybe some of them can avoid gastric bypass. Some of them will gain so much more resilience to cope with the challenges of bypass surgery. But if you look at gastric bypass, that also works very similarly to our hunger-based gratitude experience.
Dr. Chakalingam Sr., you taught him well, I'll just say that. Any other questions?
I am Dr. Chokkalingam, cardiologist and father of Anand Chokkalingam. I am from Chennai. I really appreciate for this excellent talk. I hope that everyone should follow. One small symbol only I would like to show you what he has been talking all along. This is the symbol of our happiness. Okay. Smile is the gift given by our nature, the God. That smile is going to increase some mileage. Your age will be increased. Mileage will be increased of your life by a simple smile. Smile is a very contagious. The smile is the gift of human beings only. Animals don't smile. If you keep smiling, as you all put it, everything very scientifically, I really appreciate Anand. And most important thing, as he has been stressing, that morphine injection, if you have it, if I allow by smile, your endorphin neurotransmitter secreted within your body by simple act of smile is 10 times more potent than our exogenous morphine. So keep secreting morphine, and smile is only going to reverse your chronological age of, at the age of 90, biologically a person may feel at the age of 30 by simple act of smile. My greatest appreciation for Anand and all the participants. I really enjoy it. Keep smiling and make others happy. Thank you, Anand.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, everyone.
I really enjoyed it, actually. Congratulations. Actually, I have a question over that. Dr. Flecker did not read that. I was asking how long do we need to smile each time for health benefits?
Oh, that's right. How long? How long to smile?
The smile is
1 second or the 20 seconds doesn't make a difference.
recurrently 20 times an hour. 20 reasons we have to find in 1 hour to smile. Many of the patients said, oh, 20 is a lot, but people smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day. So that much harm they are doing. This smile can be very transient. Just 20 times we have to find in an hour. So every 3 minutes, if we can smile, our heart health is most guaranteed. But this real smile comes from gratitude. So basically, my invitation is to connect at a deeper level with gratitude, despite the numerous challenges we are facing, especially in 2020, compared to any other time in our lifetime. So it becomes all the more important.
Very interesting. Actually, I just come up with a thinking about spontaneous smiling versus intentional smiling. Do you think make any difference if you intentionally smile versus just spontaneous respond to other things?
If we are in an environment where we can say watch stand-up comedies or in a movie that is a comedy and we end up smiling anyway, that is great. But our real life involves a lot of serious work now for us as physicians and for people in any other field. I mean, their work is pretty challenging, mentally engaging, sometimes really stressful, maybe physically or mentally or emotionally. So whatever our work is, if we can find a reason to smile, we are breaking that connection between the mind and the health. So if we can break that stress connection, then we are giving ourselves an opportunity to improve endothelial function. And the research is suggesting in Japan that our cardiovascular event risk itself comes down significantly. So deliberate smiling, if the opportunity to smile naturally is not there, I believe has nearly the same amount of benefit.
Thank you.
Anand, thank you so much for enlightening us with this. And I'm sure it's a special treat to have your dad listen in too. Thanks so much. And thanks everybody for attending Grand Rounds.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Dr. Chakalayan, nice to see your smiling face from India.
Dad, Dr. Lou is talking to you.
I'm really very proud. I am very happy, delighted to be all with you together in COVID, because COVID virus does not know how to spread by Zoom. Otherwise, you won't be meeting even that one.
Absolutely.
Really
You're welcome anytime. Thank you.
Really, very, very happy to see you all. But brilliant talk, Anand. I think you have got a lot of work you must do for the globally.